When you look at the current state of youth and high school basketball, we can identify several issues that are pretty common. Number one, our entire model values games over development. Youth and high school players are involved in hundreds of games throughout the calendar year, yet we have a very disproportionate number of structured practices and skill sessions. Secondly, there's an excess of unqualified and unvetted coaches involved with young players. An academic teacher has to go through years of schooling and training to become certified to teach. A basketball coach just has to find a gym. And while there's many qualified and dedicated people working to help players, there's just as many unvetted individuals that may or may not be the best influences for young men and women. And then we have the "this is how we've always done it" philosophy. This pertains to many things we do in our programs, and what I mean by this is there's things that we do every single day that are simply something we have always done. There's no real reason as to why we do it. And from my own experiences, I began to feel that traditional team camp games were something I was doing just because. One of the biggest complaints we have as coaches is that kids don't know how to play. My response to that is, are we using all of our opportunities provided to us to help players be more successful? The fact is, as high school coaches, we're severely limited by time, state association regulations, and resources to adequately teach players. And when you look at the time we do have, I feel that we spend it doing unnecessary things like playing traditional team camp games. Ultimately, you have to ask yourself as a coach, am I taking advantage of everything I can control? Let's look at the full calendar, and we'll start with July. This month is pretty much a wash because kids are playing AAU and going on vacations, and normally school facilities are shut down. August rolls around and school starts. Now we're regulated by state association rules. We also have to plan around volleyball and other fall sports. September and October are pretty much the same. State association rules limit how much time you can be on the floor with your players, and again, fall sports are in full swing. For most of us, the high school basketball season starts in late October or early November. And as much as we want to, we simply cannot reserve as much time as we would like to individual development because we are focused on our teams. This continues through December, January, February, and hopefully a few weeks in March. Now, once the high school season is completed, we go back to being regulated by state association rules in regards to how much time we can spend with our players. And also, AAU season has started. For many players, April and May are spent with their AAU programs. That leaves us with June. June is the only month in the entire year that high school coaches can do whatever we want with our players. And I'm sorry, I just do not believe that using that opportunity to prepare for team camp games is the best use of our time. Let's look at some of the problems that arise with traditional team camp games. First off, what guarantees do you have this camp is going to be worth your time and effort? How organized is it going to be? How will it be officiated? Is it running clock? Is it quarters? Is it halves? Can players foul out or not? What about the quality of the game? How many times have you loaded up your entire varsity only to get to the gym and find out that the other team brought mostly JV level players? Or what if you want to work on your man-to-man offense and all you're seeing is zone? Now, if you stay local, you're probably playing the same teams over and over again, and you might even play the same team multiple times in the same camp. And there's also more and more conflicts for athletes now. June is no longer just for high school basketball. 7-on-7 football and youth baseball opportunities have tripled over the past years. And then finally, team camps are outrageously expensive. You can easily spend over $2,000 when you factor in camp cost, transportation, food, and lodging for overnight camps. It's crazy. Now, most coaches will say that team camp games are vital. It allows you to put in your system, work on your plays, and address concepts in team defense. You can develop chemistry and work on your culture. You can give opportunities to younger kids, and you can learn how to win. Look, we haven't played a team camp game since 2012, and I feel like everything that we do is as strong as it has ever been. You can do those same things without playing a single team camp game. When you completely eliminate team camp games from the month of June, you are actually improving your system. That's because every system benefits from better players. The more kids you can put on the floor that can dribble, pass, and shoot, the better chance you're going to have to win. It doesn't matter if your system is transition-based, flex offense, whatever. The more players you have that are comfortable with the ball, the better. Every second you spend on the team in June takes away from your team. If you have 2 hours to get your workout in and you spend even 20 minutes on a zone offense or a set play, that's valuable time that you just lost when you could have been improving a kid's skill package. And when you're practicing for team camp games, are you guaranteeing equal reps for every single kid? Or are you just focusing on the top 6 or 7? In the long run, players in your program are going to learn more from small groups and quality reps. You don't need 30 games in June to improve your team chemistry. See, chemistry is organic, and it's going to happen as long as you guide it just a little bit here and there. First off, you improve chemistry by getting players out of their comfort zone. When you challenge them and you put them in situations where they're uncomfortable, there becomes opportunities for players to help and encourage each other. That builds chemistry. Secondly, you remove the cliques and you control the groups. But ultimately, you put a premium on the 3 T's. You encourage players to touch, talk, and tap. Good teams don't have a problem touching each other. It sounds trivial, but watch good teams play. They're constantly talking and touching, and you have a great opportunity to manufacture chemistry in June by eliminating team camp games and putting players in small groups and challenging them to push past their limits. You don't build a culture by playing meaningless team camp games. In fact, you might actually be hampering the culture you want to establish. Most coaches want their program built around a few common ideas. Maybe you want the foundations to be hard work and perseverance. Maybe it's respect, communication, and leadership. I'm pretty sure we all want teams that can overcome adversity. You don't get that in a 20-point win or a 20-point loss in June. You get that by putting players in situations where they have to push past their limits and work together every single day to accomplish goals. How is throwing a young kid on the floor in a team camp game really going to prepare them? If a player doesn't have the proper skill background in place, are you really helping them by playing games? Don't inexperienced players need more opportunity to improve their skill set? You can get young kids better without playing team camp games. You need to put them in positions to fail and find success in an environment that's conducive for growth, not embarrassment. So how does a kid learn how to win? Well, first off, winning is way more mental than physical. So you want to put players in situations where they have to fight fatigue and know how to communicate with teammates. You slow down the environment and you focus on sound basketball decisions and fundamental plays. But most importantly, you develop the will to compete even when the mind and body is telling you to quit. That's how you learn to win. You could play an entire summer and only get 1 or 2 opportunities to put a kid in that situation. Or you could eliminate team camps completely and work on that every single day. We have a job to do. Academic teachers have a responsibility to prepare students for the next level, whether that means the next grade level or moving from high school to college or the workforce. A high school coach has a responsibility to prepare players for the next season, but not your next season, their next season. The fact of the matter is, many of your kids will play for a different coach in July. Are you preparing them to be successful for the next time they take the court? Or are you simply focused on your next season? By focusing on fundamentals and improving the overall basketball skill, you're doing both. You're helping build better basketball players that can succeed no matter who they're playing for. Now let's think about the things that translate across systems, leagues, levels, and gender. Basketball players that have certain skills can play for anyone, anywhere. Number 1 is ball handling. Everybody wants players that can handle the ball. Next is passing and shooting, and moving without the ball. You have to move in every system. You have to know how to space, and you have to have proper footwork. And then on the defensive end, no matter what it is, man-to-man, zone, whatever, there's basic footwork and there's basic rotations that apply to everything. And you want players that are intense, guys that know how to work, and kids that have IQ. All of those things translate across levels, no matter who you're playing for. So as a high school coach, you have the responsibility to address those things and build those things with your players. And that brings us to what we call the grind. Now, we started calling it grind several years ago before the word got all played out, but we're kind of stuck with it now. We got t-shirts and everything made, so it is what it is. But we go every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in June. Fridays and weekends are TBA. Most of the time, we don't push it that hard on the weekends. Our staff includes high school and middle school coaches and trusted volunteers. These can be skill development trainers or former players. And it's important to know that music is always being played in the gym. It just helps the workout, but more importantly, it forces kids to communicate more effectively. Normally, we break our gym up into 7 stations. We use the 6 on-court goals, and then we have a 7th station off to the side. We use this 7th station to work on ball handling or do some fundamentals like defensive closeouts. We also use the 7th station as our water break station. So if we're going for 8 minutes, kids will do 4 minutes of skill work and then have 4 minutes of rest and recovery. That way, we allow kids to get water within the workout and we don't have to stop and have a group break. Everything is timed, and we start when we're scheduled to start. This past summer, we went from 12 to about 2:30, and we wanted to get it rolling by 12:05 at the latest. We break kids up into small groups, 4 to 6 players per station if possible, and normally we'll have 7 stations. We rotate stations approximately every 7 to 9 minutes. So after the first rotation, which normally takes about 45 to 55 minutes, coaches will then transition to a new skill. And we're working on offensive and defensive fundamentals. But the most important thing is we want players to touch the ball every 10 to 15 seconds. And that's why this works. We eliminate the drills where kids are just standing in a line waiting for a rep. We want to make sure that they're either shooting, passing, or handling the basketball every 10 to 15 seconds. That way they're working on conditioning and getting lots of quality reps, not just standing around. And this is why it works. The facts are that our players have more opportunities to get better at fundamental basketball skills than their peers do. And see, we don't focus on Norcross. We focus on the individual player. We haven't done a single Norcross team concept in over 6 years in June. Never a set play, never a zone offense, never a press break. Every single thing we have done has been built to improve players. And on average, our kids get 6,000 structured and monitored shots in June. Now you have to ask yourself, as a high school coach, are your players doing the same? Yes, I'm sure you are working, and I'm sure your players are getting shots, but are they getting over 6,000 shots that you are directly involved in? And we're not just talking about the top players. Every single player in our program is getting over 6,000 shots that we are directly involved in. We are controlling what we can control. Now let's look how the math breaks down. For example, in this grind session, we have 2 rotations of 6 stations, each station lasting for 8 minutes. That's 8 times 6 times 2, which equals 96 minutes of work for this day. Now we strive for 1 shot every 20 seconds. 96 minutes is 5,760 seconds. So if we're getting a shot every 20 seconds, that's 288 shots per day. Then you add in the pre and post station drills we're doing, such as group warm-ups and competition games at the end of the day. That's another 15 shots for each player on average. Now we're up to 303 shots. This past June, we had 21 grind sessions. That equals 6,363 shots for every single kid in the program. And because we've established the culture and the mindset, we have a majority of kids that make every single workout. Now, in addition to over 6,000 shots, that's 3,000 passes and 3,000 opportunities to handle the ball in ways that lead to shots for yourself or for your teammates. And there's also at least 2,500 chances to practice spacing and moving without the ball, probably more. And finally, think about all of the communication and chemistry. Over 4,000 T's. That's priceless. So this is what a typical 2017 grind would look like. This past June, we started at 12 p.m. and we began with a full group warm-up, usually our perfect layup series or some ball handling. By 12:10, we had everybody broken into groups, 4 to 6 players, and we started our first grind segment, and we went for 7-minute stations. At 1 p.m., we had a 3-minute rest while all the coaches transitioned to their second station concept. By 1:05, we were back in the grind for another segment of 7-minute stations. By 1:55, we would finish up with some full group competition, either some 4-on-4 live play like cutthroat or some shooting drills. Then at 2:10, we wrap up with some strength and conditioning. Now personally, I don't believe in trying to add a lot of bulk in June. I feel like you're limited, and anything that you can put on in June, you're going to lose by the time school starts. So what we like to focus on, again, is the player's next season. We want to continue to try to get them into shape, and we do a lot of body weight work, push-ups and sit-ups, trying to strengthen the upper body and trying to strengthen the core, things that will translate when these guys are back on the floor playing AAU in July. And then by 2:30, we've completely wrapped up. So we start at 12 and we're finished at 2:30, and again, guys are getting over 300 structured shots a day. Now the next couple of slides are some examples of stations that we would do in a typical grind session. While you're watching the video, I want you to imagine that you're a player that was going through this sequence, and pay attention to all of the things that you would be working on. Everything from offensive and defensive rotations and footwork to competition shooting to moving without the basketball. Also, think about all the opportunities that players would have to work on chemistry, culture, and communication.
Catch it, play. Catch it, play. Oh. I woke up feeling like I was on the moon. I woke up feeling like I need 100 gold. Look at the flick of their wrist. 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 Look at the flick of their wrist.
Now, yes. Get your butt down now. Get your butt down now. Be ready. Now. Good. Look. That's all because you're in the stance. Get in the stance now, JoJo. Get your hands out.
I spent time overseas, hanging out in England, and I got the squad on my mind. It's do a little time at the country.
Now, yes.
Whip. All the people with. I'm playing ball.
Now, one thing that we started this year that worked very well was we began to incorporate our Brain Ball series. Now, Brain Ball is something that we normally do during the season when we're working on building basketball IQ. But we said, hey, let's add this to our summer grind session and maybe we can use our time more effectively. So the second rotation, when players are normally sitting down and getting their water break, this year we provided them with a Brain Ball handout. Now on this handout is general basketball information, including terms, important dates in hoop history, and famous quotes. Instead of just sitting and resting during a water break for 4 minutes, players now have an opportunity to build general basketball knowledge as well. And we're not naive. We understand that kids probably won't memorize every word, but if a player walks away from this sheet and remembers one thing, then it's a win and a much more productive use of time rather than just sitting there and checking snaps. And if you want to know more about our entire Brain Ball package that we do in the off season and during the season, just let me know. We'll be happy to get you that information as well. Now again, this is something that we've been doing since 2012. It wasn't perfect, and it's still not perfect, but we want to grow every single year. One thing that we've learned how to do is adjust to work harder and more efficiently, not necessarily longer. When we first started this several years ago, these grind sessions were almost 4 hours, and it's just not physically possible for kids to work that hard and be efficient. One of the things that we started to do to improve it was we incorporated the rest and recovery within the circuit. Instead of having a long water break for everybody in the gym, we let kids get water within the circuit so we maximize our time. If a drill works, we learn from it. If it doesn't work, we learn from it. We communicate and plan and have a set schedule every single day. We don't freestyle it. Coaches know what they're doing. That pays off. Kids will work harder when things are structured and organized. And this past year, we added the mental component with the Brain Ball handouts. But most importantly, And the thing that's taken these grinds to new levels is we started partnering with other teams and coaches. This past year, we had 21 grind sessions, and for every single session, we had at least 2 teams that came in and worked out with us. We weren't playing those teams, we were learning from those teams. We mixed groups, we mixed skill levels, we mixed ages. And in most cases, the Norcross coaches and staff would lead the first session of the grind. And then the partner schools would lead the second station. So players in the gym were learning from different coaches with different perspectives. It also gave us as high school coaches an opportunity to learn from one another. Now on the next slide is video of a full gym. On this day, there were 3 full varsity teams and approximately 45 players. As you watch the video, pay attention to how many kids are moving and some of the skills that are being taught. Now if you notice, 2 of the side goal stations have a lot of standing around. While the skills being taught are very useful, the structure of the drill could be improved. This would be an opportunity for feedback and creative suggestions to have more kids involved in the drill and touching the ball every 15 to 20 seconds. Just take a moment and observe what a full gym would look like in a 2017 grind session. To wrap everything up, this is what we accomplish every single June. We get equal reps for every single player in our program, and every kid leaves June more comfortable with the ball. Every age, every position. It doesn't matter if you're 5'10" or 6'10", everyone approaches the game the same way. We develop toughness, camaraderie, chemistry, and we definitely develop a winner's mentality. Grind sessions are extremely tough, and kids that can get through the entire thing and still have the energy to attack the last station like they did the first station are your winners. It also provides coaches professional development. We have opportunities to learn from one another and get better at our craft. And ultimately, we're investing in the long-term goal, which is to develop better players. Sure, we could go to team camps and we could win some games and we could talk about what our summer record is, but we'd much rather be in the gym helping kids learn the game and become better players. We want to value the development over the games and control what we can control. As high school coaches, we all have the same time. The question is, are we using it the right way?